Some technical issues, but hello, people. We're here for another episode of Bull of Passion. Well, I'm here. Um, I know we've been away for a couple of weeks and a couple of games, and I know we promised a lot, a lot of content, but it's basically George is defending his PhD and Chris has university exam, so everything's been a bit mental. But I'm here. We are going to talk about this West Ham game, and I think we're all a bit nervous, aren't we? Interesting game, and over the next couple of weeks, I'm going to be basically running things, as it were. So if you want to drop a DM, if you would like to come on and say hello, or you want to you have some ideas of things, always my DMs are open. So do let me know. But today we're going to be talking about this West Ham game, and what a game it's going to be, eh? Um, it's interesting to think about what's going to go into this game because I know we're all thinking about City and we're all thinking about the issues that obviously are going to be coming towards us with that City game, and everyone's kind of in that City game, that City game. But every game we have, as I've been saying on Twitter for a long time now, we've got to take every game as it comes because there's no margin for error here. One drop point and they're on us. So really, these kinds of games, West Ham, Southampton next week, we really have to take advantage of. So I'm looking forward to it, and I'm looking forward to interacting with you guys as well in the comments. So, um, what are you guys thinking? I mean, for me, look, the Zinchenko stuff I'm obviously gonna get into, but I think the main thing for me is how we can mitigate what's going to happen via that Antonio Holding matchup. I don't know about you guys, but look, I think the main thing for me is Antonio will be a physical outlet that will basically be able to run past. So, yeah, that's the aim. So that's the main problem for me in terms of Zinchenko versus Tierney. I think we're going to have to keep talking about these low block issues. We're going to have to talk about, for example, the issues that we're going to have faced today um, with this West Ham team, and they are as bad as they are, and as bad as a lot of people have seemed them to be. They do have obviously that threat with the likes of Declan Rice, who obviously, if anyone else on the channel knows, we are a massive fan of Declan Rice on the channel. So I think the major battles, I mean, we should talk about them because it's going to be interesting to see how a Rob Holding holds up today against Mikel Antonio, as I mentioned just previously. Because if you look at in the Premier League, you look at specific Premier League strikers, you look at how they basically go up against in terms of physicality and in terms of how they will, cause a problem for the opposition centre back. So there's not going to be that many more that will be more interesting and more, or much more of a challenge than Mikel Antonio. I mean, you're looking at someone who, I mean, what do you think, guys? A watch along? I think we're all gonna be too stressed, you know what I mean? Like, imagine imagine we have the Bournemouth situation 6 seconds in and everyone's gone for for the doom and gloom. But no, I'm thinking about it. I mean, we'll seriously, the DM's open. If you've got ideas and you want to see on the channel, we'll get through it. But the main thing for me is to talk about um the duels on the pitch, because obviously there's a lot of things going on in terms of are we going to go with Tierney inverted versus far and wide, high and wide, sorry, or we're going to go with how we're going to mitigate the issues in midfield with obviously Holding running out and the issues that are going to occur with that. So um, I think a good place to start, I think, would be the starting lineups, because for me, the lineup is obviously going to be what it usually is, except for Nozinchenko and Holding and Tierney will come in. So it'll be Ramsdale, it'll be Tierney, Gabriel, Holding, White, Partey, um, and then Xhaka and Erdegaard as the eights, and then Saka, Martinelli, and Gabriel Jesus. So what we're going to see today in terms of major duels, you're going to see, as someone mentioned already, it should be the Erdegaard versus Rice duel is going to be critical. And as we said if you go back to the preview for the home game, we were saying that pit area of the pitch, the right half space, in the opposition half, where you're going to have that Odegaard versus Rice duel is going to be so critical, because if we can work around him, we can get it. We can get into areas where we can potentially have Saka up against. I don't even know who their left back is. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. Will it be Emerson? I think maybe. I'm not too sure on that, but if it'll be an interesting duel to see how we. Will White be that bit more adventurous today, or will he stay back and protect, holding against that Michael Antonio duel? Because that duel is going to be, as I've said previously, is going to be crucial. So just to think about what we're going to talk about in terms of, is it Ben Johnson? I'm not sure. We'll see in a couple of hours. But for me, going forward, or it could be Cresswell, um, going forward will be the issue between how do we mitigate Erdegaard getting around Rice? Are we going to have White be that bit more adventurous? But does that leave us open to the counter attack? See, this is a major issue in this game. Will it be an Erdegaard versus Rice one-on-one duel, or will we try to work around him and try to get White going a bit higher? We form the triangle with Saka, and then Saka can go out wide, and Erdegaard and White can come inside a bit, or White can go out on the overlap. There's a lot of different issues going on there, so that will be a key duel for me. The other main thing will be outlet play, because if we're going to go towards an Eddie and Nketiah style of outlet in the second half, maybe if he comes on for a cameo, because as someone's mentioned already, we will be coming up against a low block, so it will be interesting to see how um, that situation progresses throughout the day. Um, I think if you look at structurally, we're going to try and, I hope we go for a 2-3 and keep the fullbacks wide, and then have Martinelli not be as occupied with coming back, but going forward as well. But I think the main thing is, will Martinelli be allowed to come inside, or will we go for the kind of awkward, clunky Tierney inside, and then with the Martinelli outside? I hope we keep going Tierney wide, push Marcelli inside the box, make sure we keep that duel going on. And this is the other thing. When will we be able to create against this block? Because as Chelsea saw, as a lot of teams have seen coming up against West Ham, if they're struggling, they will retreat. And Declan is Declan. He will do that job of screening his centre backs, making sure that there's fires being put out, trying to get the ball back, try to turn the ball over, try to find a Jared Bowen in transition, which obviously Kieran Tierney will be coming up against. And I think a lot of disrespect, as Alex said already in the comments, a lot of disrespect for Kieran Tierney in the past, where it's silly. I think if you look at how Kieran Tierney can operate on the outside as well as the inside, we've seen him do both roles, and we've seen that he can do well in either role. I think there's a very hyper focus, is a very overly focused fan base on Kieran Tierney right now. And I was saying to someone earlier, it feels like when someone's not in the best of form, this fan base turns on them straight away. It happened with Erdegaard when he first came in. It happened it's happening with Vieira. It's happening with Tierney. If they're not seen every week, it's they're crap. They're not here to stay, and I don't really understand why that is. But yeah, let's go through some comments, because I'm just interested to see what you guys are saying. Would you guys watch along? It would be interesting. I did one. I remember when we first started the channel with Alex. I remember we did an England watch along for the Euros, and that was tough work. I'm telling you right now, that was not easy to do for 3 hours. I have found a different level of respect for these guys that do these watch alongs week in, week out. When you see, but watch along will be mad. Yeah. I will be. I don't care if I don't get a ticket. I will be at Wolves, so there's no chance for Wolves. But yeah, interesting. Erdegaard versus Rice, massive duel, as I've just said. Ben Johnson, maybe. And Cresswell is a good shout as well. I'm not sure. I was talking to Louis, one of my West Ham mates, and he has 11 up, and I want to see what he said, because I'm interested to see what the West Ham guys are saying. Uh, it'll be interesting. So, oh, the liner is out. So, look, if you go for a look, Ramsdale, White, Holding, Gabriel, Tierney, Partey, Xhaka, Odegaard, Saka, and Master Jesus, as we expected. Tierney on the team sheet. So, look, the West Ham guys are not happy with Tilo Kehrer. They're not happy with apparently Ogbonna's injured. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they uh, they progress things. I mean, Zinchenko is apparently at the ground. He's going to do one of his. If you remember, in August we got the uh, the Zinchenko overly celebrating on the touchline. So that was a fun day. I think maybe we'll see some passion desire from Zinchenko on the bench. So um, look, when you're thinking about this specific West Ham team, what are the battles do you guys think is going to be interesting? I mean, I've talked about Odegaard versus Rice. Tierney versus Bowen is another one. Can Paqueta get behind Xhaka and try to affect things? That's another one. Obviously, Martinelli and Saka versus their fullbacks. So there's it's a lot of interesting things happening on the pitch today, and I really do feel that when we look at this game, we look at how it goes about where the overloads will be and where the issues in trying to get these guys into positions where they can succeed. You're looking at a Saka, Odegaard, and White triangle. You're looking at a Martinelli, Tierney, and I'm hoping Martinelli is at the tip of the triangle and not in the wide side of the triangle. On the review, I'll discuss about how the positioning of Martinelli inside versus outside will affect the game, and hopefully we can get him in the box and really affecting things, which will be interesting. Um, I think going forward, we're going to need to see whether we can do a a more conservative 2-3-5 instead of going all out um, on the wings and trying to force those overloads. Because on the other side, going back, we do still have a massive duel versus where you have Holding versus Antonio, and I'm hoping Gabriel can cover and eat him up. Hopefully, um, what are the things I did want to talk about? And I know this has been a kind of a bit of a free ramble, and I appreciate the patience. It's just we'll get things a bit more structured next time. But for today, it's going to be a bit of a ramble. So um, there's 8 games left, and do you guys feel that there will be a bit too much emotion going into these games, or will it be a case where we have the experience from last year? We haven't got the extreme injuries and the extreme amount of injuries that we had last season with Tierney and Partey last season, and everyone kind of going down, and the Sambi 3-1 and all that stuff. You can go back to last year's videos if you want to go and watch us agonize over Sambi playing in a single pivot. It's been interesting. It was a fun time. So um, we don't have those issues. I think a lot is being made on the run in and City having better points on the corresponding games of last season compared to these. Well, there's different teams last season. There's a very different team on the pitch today as there was 12 months ago. And if you look at where we can succeed, I think a lot of people are trying to look on past narratives to predict the future. And while that is it can work, nothing can change. You have to assume that nothing changes in those 12 months with Arsenal. And I think that there's a lot placed on City's form, City's form, City's form, City's form, when it's not City's form that we should be worried about. It's our own. We go 7-1 draw, we win this title. It doesn't matter what they do. And I know all of us are sitting at City games, watching the streams and just hoping that something will happen, and it just doesn't. And it doesn't matter because this title is in our hands. We're resting Saliba again, and I did put in the tweet, how will Zinchenko and Saliba being out affect our build up and affect how we play, and how will we adjust? For me, if it's me, I go for 2-3. I go with Holding and Gabriel in that two, have White come drop a bit deeper, and sometimes form the three as an asymmetric three, and then run into. And sometimes when we're a bit when they're pushing off, because I don't think they'll press that hard. Um, I think Antonio will try and press, but I don't think they're looking to go mano a mano with us. I think they're trying to go settle and hit us in transition. I think that's what their game plan is. Um, so if you're looking at this West Ham team, if I'm David Moyes right now, I'm looking at a Fabianski, a an Aged, and whoever their other centre back is, Kerr, I think it is, and I'm looking to say to them, look, whenever you see Bowen running past, hit him. Whenever you see Antonio in a duel, hit him. I think that's the main thing for them. That they're going to going straight through the lines, and they're not going to pass through. They're going to go over the top. So yeah, I mean that is that is the standard five at the back tactic, and I don't know if they will go five at the back, but if they do, they tend to go with their more four at the back system, which they have been playing recently in that 4-3-3. Um, it's going to be interesting to see how we can attack Marcelli and Saka getting basically past the fullback and really being able to hit that maximum to minimum width principle where the fullbacks are coming in and running onto the ball when they receive instead of being having to receive with their back to goal and having to try and turn their man and try to create something from there or have to pass back. It'll be interesting to see if we can create that movement in between the fullbacks and really get amongst it and create those cutbacks, create those crosses that we can really exploit. But I think the main thing that I'm going to be looking out for, and I want to know what you guys are going to looking out for, is how Declan Rice does, because it's going to be interesting to see how he does. Of course, against the corresponding fixture at the Emirates, they got trounced, but I think there was a big Cup hangover. He was very, very tired. You could see that he was getting bodied in duels. So it'll be interesting. It'll be very interesting to see how they do, because I think if he can start getting the switches, if he could start hitting that left to right switch to Bowen that he did so well against us last year when we went to the London Stadium, it'll be interesting because that has been the one spot where you think, that left channel, can we can we really afford to have Zinchenko be as high as he is? But we have such a great channel defender in Gabriel, so there's that duel between Gabriel and Bowen, and obviously Tierney and Bowen will also have that same dynamic. So it'll be interesting. So I think if we're going to sum up, I think the main points would be um, keep the duels, keep winning your duels. Basically, I think that's the major thing because that midfield is going to be, as Aaron Ramsdale or hence Matt Tanner will say, it's a dogfight. It's going to be a complete dogfight because they're going to have to look for um, basically try to turn over and hit in transition. That'll be their main weapon. So it'll be interesting to see how they go for a more structured setup that we have as opposed to last year where we were playing sort of that 4-2-3-1 and kind of trying to fit Tavares into that 2-4-4 system, what we were doing because Tierney was out and everything was a bit shaky. So whereas this year, everything is a lot more structured in that 2-3-5. The build-up will be probably the normal 3-2 with Tierney coming inside, which I don't like. I don't think anyone likes, but we will probably see that as opposed to the 2-3 that Mikel deployed earlier in the season uh, to great effect, to be honest. But I think that's the main thing for in terms of being able to structure that box midfield that we do. Obviously, Tierney will come inside. Partey will be there. Xhaka and Odegaard forming that box. If we can form that box and basically outcrowd their midfield 4-3 in the second phase, that will allow us to really play our best stuff, get into the play through the lines and get into the final third. So it'll be interesting to see where, yeah, we are probably going to get kicked a lot to say. So that's the first point. Making sure you win your duels and basically try to crowd out the midfield because that will be a major area of concern. Not concern, but sort of opportunity to really take advantage of maybe the lack of personnel that they will have today. Because I feel like Paqueta, Rice, and probably Suchek, I'm not sure who their third midfielder is, will be going for A 4v3 in midfield. I don't think they have the ability to have someone create that fourth man, and if we're playing around them, that would be the main thing. The second point is really to really make sure that we dominate in our fullback winger duels. I think Saka versus probably Cresswell, someone mentioned, and what do you call it, Martinelli versus their right back, which would probably be um, Kufala. Probably, I think he played in midweek. I think that will be interesting to see the where we can get the purchase in that final third, and the same in the first third. I think the main thing with us defensively is are we going to isolate Gabriel on Antonio? Are we going to make sure that Bowen is staying out wide and Tierney coming back? Uh, yeah. So I think that'll be interesting as well. I think the wide areas, obviously, central. Can we shield Rob Holding? I think that's a major, major issue. Um, what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to think about how they step off him because a lot of teams have been doing that. A lot of teams have been stepping off Rob Holding and they haven't been allowing basically him to just keep it simple. He likes to have a little jog into midfield and hit that right to left switch to Martinelli and try and get him free, but he can also lose it, and he can also be overly aggressive in transition as well. If he loses the ball, he could just kick out someone. So how we protect him? Are we going to keep White a bit closer to goal, or are we going to let trust Rob a bit more and trust him to keep to stick to our principles? Um, and the third point is, I think, just keeping calm. I think I mentioned in the tweet, I was talking about how the with 8 games left, how do we keep our cool? How do we keep this level of performance up? And the main thing for me is trying to just, as the guys have been keeping saying, it's one action at a time, one game at a time, nothing more than that. Just focus on your next duel, focus on your next pass, focus on your next shot or whatever. Just focus on your next action. That's all that matters. So those are the three main points for me. And as for a prediction, Georgia said 4-0. Chris is, I think, said, I'm not sure what Chris said. I'll ask him later. I'm going to start posting the predictions on the Twitter as well, so we have some accountability because a lot of people have asked about the predictions, and I am going for a 3-1 away from home. I'm going for Saka, Martinelli, and Odegaard to score. Um, I hope you've. I'm not going to say enjoy. I hope you've been able to maybe calm down a bit before this game because I think it's going to be such a crucial game in terms of what we do. And I hope everyone has a nice day. And I appreciate you guys for sticking with me. And I will see you hopefully after Arsenal 3 and West Ham 1. Bye bye.